Okay, week 10, done. Okay, we're on Friday, and networking, NET-200, IP addressing, and subnetting. For this class, this is day 19. Let's just take a look. First thing we talked about, a routing device. For example, here we have 3 networks. Those all have to be separate networks, and in some cases somebody would mention the word subnet. Okay, well, we can take a network address and then split that by subnetting it into more network addresses. Okay, hopefully that clears that up. Broadcasts stop at the router. So a broadcast doesn't go beyond these points right here. That's one reason we subnet. Okay, security. You can have things here, and the people here or here would have a harder time seeing them. This might be your secure area. It's supposed to say secure. And later on you'll learn that you can actually use access lists to control traffic. Here at the college they divide networks up by locations. You can divide them up by groups. You could have one network for faculty and one for students. And in this case we use the example of the Wi-Fi in the room. One access point, but coming to me as an instructor, I got some 10 address. And going to the students, they got some 172.29 address. Same device, 2 networks. The traffic is separated. Even though it's running across the trunk to the next device, which is a switch, it's still keeping those frames separate. We looked up this address here at the college, and we found NIACC has this whole block. Nobody else has that block. So we have these 8 bits we can do with. So we subnetted them. I drew a line here, and I said we're going to add this many more networks. We borrowed 3 bits. We borrowed 3 bits. 1, 2, 3. We borrowed 3 bits. That would give us 8 more networks. So if we had something like a multi-layered switch, we could easily divide 8 more networks. So each of them could be a little more secured. We'd stop a broadcast, and etc., etc., however you want to do that. So here's our starting address, /24, right? 24 prefix bits. So there we are. So then we said, how big would the networks be? Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 bits. 2 to the 5th, 32. But we can't use all 1s because that's the broadcast. And we can't use all 0s because that's the network address. So you always subtract 2, so we have 30 possible networks to use. So our next step, let me show it. We said all 0s. That's our first option. And then we have 8 options here. So we can create 8 more networks just with this subnetting. Here's the address. Then how did I get 27? It was a /24, and we borrowed 1, 2, 3 more bits. 24, 25, 26, 27. So it's a /27. This is the first address, and that would be if there was a 1 here and zeros here. So we'd have 207, 207, 207, 165, 226, 1. That'd be the first address. We have 30 addresses. So the final option, you can't have all ones because that would be the broadcast. So our option, our last option, would be 30. So we could have addresses 1 through 30. 31 would be all ones. So 30, that would be there would be a 0 there. Get it? Our next network address is this, 32/27. So we start at 33 and we go to 62. Next network address, .64 with the 27. And then you could figure out the next one. How many would there be here altogether? 8. Alright. I drew this on the board initially just so you could quickly calculate your addresses. That makes sense? Yeah. Alright. One other thing I'll mention here. We looked up the Wi-Fi for the students. And one of the students had 172.29.267, and then somebody found this mask. For the students, connecting to the Wi-Fi here in the room. Basically on campus. Alright. Two other examples. We looked at this example, /24, and my first question was, how many hosts can you make out of 8 bits? To the 8 is 256. You got to take off the network and the broadcast so you can get 254 addresses. There'd be 254 combinations there. Then we had, from some of the work we were working on, actually this was a packet tracer we had looked at. That was a /30, which means all of these bits, this is in the last octet, must be ones, and so actually they have a combination of, this would be the broadcast, this would be the network. So from here you could have a 0-1 or a 1-0. And then we looked at this address, that was the example. This would be the network part of the address, and then you'd have the combinations of 5 and 6 were the two networks it could be. So we wrote them out. There's 10, 10, 1, 4, 5. So that's this address. But if we were to show you here, this part's the network, and this part, a lot of times they call it the host or the interface. Sometimes even called the link. Alright. This was the example that the students used in class to look at addressing. They looked at some basic things like they did a ping to look for information. The students all had a router, but they didn't have the picture. And so they were to try to determine which routers were connected where. They used ping, they used traceroute, and then they looked at IP interface brief. We looked at IP route, looked at the routing table, and some other information. And that's it. Next week we're going to do more subnetting and some labs, Monday and Friday. Alright.